Hey everyone. So, welcome back to the Marketing Insights vlog. And today we are going to talk a bit more about cryptocurrency and how it is marketed and what impact specifically government regulation has on the overall crypto market. And also, why is it and how is it that government is trying to rein in crypto from what it sees, as a pending threat to the fiat the fiat currency markets. And when you think about it, it seems logical that governments that fear decentralized currencies, that people can operate without government control or beyond government control. It seems logical that governments would fear that because government is all about control, obviously. It's the idea of organizing a system for a country to manage laws, etc. So governments are clearly operating on the modus operandi, if you will. Their MO is stability, right? Keeping control, not letting things get either out of hand or out of their hands specifically. Right? And you may live in a society that you think is free, but that doesn't mean that it's free to live there, right? And it doesn't mean that the government wants you to have all of your assets, beyond their control, right? If you live within their borders, they probably want some measure of control over your ability to acquire assets, use assets, sell assets, whatever it is. And those assets could be anything, right? Property, currency, jewelry, whatever, doesn't matter. Stocks, anything you might be, owning, bonds, whatever, in your financial portfolio. So governments in general want and need all of those things that are traded within their borders, or at least partly traded within their borders, through the execution of orders. They want some nominal regulation, at least, to be in place to cover their collective assets, right? And they want to make sure that citizens and other people in their borders can't just do whatever they want with their treasure as long as they're within that country. They want to know they have some form of control. And the easiest way to do that is obviously regulation and law. You can pass legislation against, letting people do whatever they want with currency. You can make it harder for people to acquire currency. You can make it, you can tax it. You can put other kinds of levies against it. They might disguise them under other names, but essentially when the government is taking money from you for whatever reason, it's a tax, right? And it's also, something that governments kind of do as I don't want to say a knee-jerk reaction, but it is the way that they operate, is the default method that they use, right? So for them to not try to impose regulation would be almost anathema to their ethos as a government, right? They are there to regulate, and some people like less regulation, some people like more. Some politicians and policymakers like less, and some like more. It's people too. So that's why with shifting political powers in place in different countries, you have different trends in those countries over which direction regulators are moving. When you have more liberal governments, you tend to have, or when you're rather fiscally liberal governments, will say, you tend to have less regulation, and you tend to have more open borders and more open markets and more laissez-faire kind of behavior. And when you have fiscally super conservative, or not liberal, or I don't know, protectionist, I guess is really the idea. Well, no, not protectionist, but when you have fiscal conservatives who are not keen on losing their grip on power, it doesn't matter if they're politically left or right, they're fiscally conservative about the system they live in. That means they don't want to change, right? They want to conserve or preserve the system that they're operating within, because that's how they believe that they can profit most. Okay, wonderful. Well, that means also that you're imposing regulations on people who might disagree with you. And the beauty of decentralized currencies is that they're not controlled by any government, and they're not controlled by any regulators, and they're not limited by borders, right? So that's one of their massive appeals. That's one of their massive strengths, is that they are not so easily manipulated by government, or so people think, right? But there is also plenty of evidence that suggests that governments not only openly manipulate by trying to regulate and legislate cryptocurrency, as we see currently happening in the EU, and as we see happening in the US, where the SEC is looking over ETFs and roundly rejecting a whole bunch of crypto ETFs, even if they should be not rejected. Those are petty government ways to try to control an unstoppable, progress, a march towards progress. It's really not something you can stop. You can either be on the right side of history or not. And in this case, the right side of history is cryptocurrencies is growing, right? Just like the web was growing 20 years ago, and everyone said, "Oh, you're crazy. The web's, nobody's going to use the web. It's too complicated. It's too slow. You have to dial up with a modem, it's et cetera, et cetera." I'd rather just pick up a phone call and dial, a phone and call someone. That was the idea back then. That was the conservative notion of the technology. Of, oh no, the technology that we have is good enough. We don't need better, right? That same kind of thinking is the same kind of thinking that led tech giants like Bill Gates to say many years ago, 64K is all we're going to ever need in a computer, right? I mean, what? And he's hardly a tech skeptic, right? He's clearly one of the biggest evangelists of tech the world has ever seen. And even he was able to be, convinced by himself or by others that tech had its limits in terms of usefulness because of the complicated nature of its applications. But again, he was looking at it at the time of the applications available then. And even with all the forecasting that he knew about the future, he still couldn't see why, given the existing state of progress, why people would ever want computers in their own home. And then we're talking about Bill Gates, right? So not just anybody. The same thing happens in crypto right now, right? You have a lot of people who are doubtful that it can succeed because they don't understand it. They don't see how it will really radically change the way humans behave with money. And they don't see how it is extremely effective and has a potentially high impact on people's financial statements, on people's personal ledgers, on people's personal and financial portfolios. There is no doubt that technologies like crypto, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, or whatever, it doesn't matter what, some form of digital currency, and probably many forms of them, will continue to grow and become more popular, and eventually they will become a standard in which people operate day to day. So government has a huge interest right now in, first of all, trying to control as much of the crypto money as they can. They do that through regulation and legislation, but they also do that very clearly through other operations, whether they publicize them or not, right? And I'm not talking about conspiracy crazy stuff. I'm just talking about they clearly are, doing things around the world. Governments are buying up crypto. Governments are storing crypto. Why are they doing that? If they don't want people to use crypto, why would they own it? Well, easiest way to prevent somebody from owning something is to buy it yourself, and then they can't have it, right? So if there's only 17 million Bitcoins available, or 15 or whatever the number is, what if the governments all bought them and nobody would be able to reach them and use them? And they just hold it and shut it down. Right? It could happen. It's highly unlikely, but it could happen. The same thing could be said for any other form of cryptocurrency, right? So those are some of the ways that government is clearly trying to manipulate and control and restrain the growth of crypto, especially while, and this is to be fair to them, they're still learning about crypto. Now you could argue, well, how long does it take them to learn? I mean, a basic person at home, an average person at home, can learn about crypto in a month, right? And be not an expert, but certainly understand enough about it to say, okay, I got my feet wet. Now I'm going to learn some more. I'm going to explore. I'm going to see what I think is interesting. Make a list of what I think I possibly like to invest in, and start trading or start investing or start doing their own project, whatever it is. Crypto. When people say, "Oh, there's thousands of crypto, we don't need any more cryptos, we don't need any more ICOs," I completely disagree. Okay, we don't just need more crypto projects. We also need more ICOs, more token airdrops, more distribution methods to get crypto out there. The reason for that is, yes, the market will suss out the good from the bad, right? The chaff from the wheat. It will be separated by nature, by human beings who are trading constantly, who are buying in and selling out. Or whatever they're doing, they're exchanging, they're trading. The market is alive, and the more alive and the more thriving it is, the better. However, it is fair to say that the absolutely poor delivery of great products until this point is one of the reasons people get so negative, right, and fearful of the market, and therefore they get skittish and they run away. Totally understandable. We all expect high tech to be delivered fast, on time, and effectively and cost effectively and profitably, etc. And when it doesn't happen, then it doesn't meet our expectations. And what do? We move to something else that does meet our expectations, right? So it's obvious why and how governments are trying to manipulate cryptocurrency. It isn't necessarily helpful for the overall crypto economy. However, it is a little bit like cutting their teeth, right? So as crypto, deals with government regulation issues, the more they do, the more experienced they become at it, and the better they'll be able to handle it. And hopefully, the more they'll be able to work with governments to make it more possible for people to have and use crypto in a safe way. Obviously, within government borders, governments control their borders, so they can control many things, including people's access to decentralized currencies. Right now, you may argue as a libertarian or as a freedom person or whatever that government does not own crypto, government does not control crypto, government doesn't have the right to do so, and by doing so, they're violating your right as a citizen. Maybe, but for you to get that to be the accepted view in whatever country you live in, you need to go through a process to make that happen. Not just protesting, but also, getting congressmen or politicians in your country to write laws and to pass them, or getting regulators to pass policies and regulations that protect crypto, right? For now, crypto is the thing they pretend to still be learning, or they seriously need to still learn about. Some are pretending more than others, and some are learning more than others. For now, that's the way that governments are trying to process this new thing. But that said, philosophically, I fundamentally agree with libertarians, or I don't know how to label that, but I fundamentally agree with the view of ciphers and cypherpunks and all those people who invented crypto, really, that government has no business getting into crypto any more than they would get into any other thing that they didn't create and that they don't have any rights to control, right? So, if you make, I don't know, organic soap bars, right, from your berry bushes, and you live in, I don't know, an island, you live in Tahiti or wherever, why should, if you don't sell them to, you don't sell them to any person in any country around the world or whatever, why should anyone, any government, be able to tell you, other than the government where you live, what to do with your soap, right? If you want to send them to people as gifts, or if you want to keep them to yourself, or if you want to share them with friends, it doesn't matter. It's your product. You made it. You didn't make it with any government assistance, right? So why should the government have the right to come and say whatever they want? And there's all kinds of valid reasons. Well, you made the soap on their land, therefore they have some right, to regulate you. Yes, but again, if you're making it in some small island, then why should the United States, which is another country, have anything to do with you? Well, maybe you your country gets aid from them, and part of that aid is they agree to regulate. Or you sell, you made it using some product that is sent from the United States, and you are potentially importing or exporting your product to the United States or its territories, so they want some form of regulation. So there are all kinds of ridiculous reasons and legitimate reasons that you'll hear from governments about why they think they have the right. Again, I fundamentally disagree with government claims to the right to control crypto, because the entire point of crypto is that it is out of government control. But I understand where they're coming from, and I also understand and I respect their process. And in most cases, right, in open and free societies, or at least relatively democratic societies, governments are doing some good things, and they are trying to understand this better, and they are creating partnerships with certain leading companies and industrial organizations and associations. So it isn't as if all governments' involvement in crypto is bad. But again, I fundamentally just disagree with the notion that cryptocurrencies should allow any kind of government regulation over their currencies. Government can try all it wants to regulate it, and that's fine, and they will control crypto within their borders. But between borders, they have no control. On the open sea, they have no control. Right? If you were to make a floating decentralized exchange, or even a floating centralized crypto exchange on a giant barge or a network of barges floating around the world, and there are, by the way, many networks of barges doing many things floating around the world, in case you're not aware of that. There's solar barges, there's oil barges, there's all kinds of barges doing stuff out in the open sea. And they are not ruled by laws of a particular country. When they're on the open sea, they're ruled by the law of the sea, which is, in fact, quite different. So you could, in fact, set up a network of barges 20 kilometers offshore or 20 miles offshore from any country you want, and you'd be out in international waters where you have the essential right to do anything peaceful that you want. And why not have a crypto mining operation on a boat, right? There's plenty of water to keep your systems cool if you need liquid cooling. There's plenty of air, usually plenty of sunshine, or if you're in a stormy place, plenty of rain. So either way, you can use nature to help power your energy use. There's a lot of possibilities there, right? And there's no shortage of crypto billionaires that have been minted since this craze started, a couple of years ago, and since really crypto began a dozen, or so years ago. So, there's a lot of possibilities for legitimately finding ways that crypto can be created and maintained and grown beyond borders. Right? Literally in the water, right? Or in the air, or in other places that governments do not control. In space, for example, right? You can have a space network of satellites mining crypto in space, and beaming, crypto back and forth to people on their devices on Earth. Maybe it sounds a little out there. Well, so did having one of these things in your pocket 10 years ago. People thought, whoa, smartphone, that's something that is, from Fantasyland, right? Well, everyone has one, or an enormous population has these devices in a very short period of time. So think about the effect that crypto can have. Oh, by the way, smartphones didn't just pop out of nowhere, right? Before smartphones, there were other kinds of phones with screens, right? Even color screens, even internet screens. Then there were black and white ones before that, and then there were SMS screens. You could send only text, and then before that there were screens you could send only the digits and make the phone call. So the technology evolves, right? The same happens with crypto. The technology is evolving, and the faster we get to a place where there are more practical applications that Grandma Moses can use, and she doesn't have any Grandma Methuselah. Let's call her Methuselah today. She is able to use that technology without having to think twice about it. If it's just as easy to use as whatever other thing she's used to using, not necessarily just money, but the toaster or a car or getting on the bus, anything she's used to doing day to day. If crypto applications are as easy as that for someone like that to use, then you've reached the point where you have market adoption and you have massive understanding of how people perceive this technology to impact their lives, and you'll have all kinds of wonderful studies and research done about the impact of cryptocurrency And all these people who talked about it in the early days, in the first 10, 20 years, and how they were all these visionaries, etc. And if you're watching this and if you're participating in any way in cryptocurrency in the year 2018, maybe you feel late to the party if you only started investing in 2017 in crypto or something like that. Maybe you feel late. Who knows? You could have been a billionaire and now you're just sitting on a bunch of losses. Yeah, possibly. But if you hold on to that, not holding to your losses, but if you hold on to that idea that crypto is going to keep growing and you participate positively in trying to make an impact by creating something useful or supporting a useful project, right? 10 years, when you look back at this, and even 20 years, absolutely, you're going to be, I mean, I have no doubt about it. You're going to look back and say, wow, how far we've come. Like, this is, we are not going to be in the same place we are today at all. You probably won't even recognize most of the names you still see on the market today, but you will see other names on the market, and you will see strong names on the market, and you will see projects that have not been invented yet, and you will see things done by maybe someone who isn't even born yet, right? But it will happen, and these great advances are unstoppable over time. So is there any particular crypto that you should be interested in keeping away from government regulation? No, they should all be kept away, right? Are there going to be government-based cryptos? Very likely, right? In fact, there already are. There's officially one country, Micronesia, has adopted cryptocurrency as its main form of currency, right? So, and that happened within the past year. So, when more and more governments create their own crypto, that is another way for them to get into that game. Or when they adopt cryptos as their own fiats, that is another way for them to get into the game. And our opportunity as people marketing crypto or investing in crypto or building crypto businesses is not to operate out of fear that the government will come and shut everything down, but to operate out of the spirit of partnership and cooperation, and to make it clear that although they have an interest in regulating crypto within their borders, that should not have an impact on crypto beyond their borders. And furthermore, there is a perfectly legitimate right for the people within their borders to demand change and to deregulate further any legislation or rules that are standing in the way of free crypto capitalism. That's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. And again, for if you leave any comments or anything like that, like, subscribe, I don't care. Do something around here, right? It's YouTube. It's going to be probably on Facebook and elsewhere. Click on the action buttons. That's what they always tell you to tell people when you make videos. So thanks again for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next time, and hopefully we'll have more interesting content for you to like and share and learn from. Okay. Take care, everybody. Till then, take care.